This is Unit 5, Section 5.1, Adding and Subtracting Polynomials. So this will kick off our next kind of mini unit that is on adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing polynomials. And so today we'll look at classifying them and then going into our first operations, adding and subtracting. So when we look at adding and subtracting polynomials, we first want to start at what is even a polynomial. And so when we define that, that's going to be an expression with many terms. So poly meaning many, nomial meaning terms, numbers, kind of that idea. So an example would be like 3x to the fifth plus 4x cubed minus 3. This is a polynomial. A non-example would be anything with a square root and an x underneath it. A number can be underneath it because that's just another number. But an x isn't considered a polynomial. This is considered a radical. Okay, so then if we did divide by x, this is another example that is not a polynomial because we can't divide by x. Let's see here. So no negative exponents, which again would put that in the denominator. But these are kind of our non-examples. And when we write a polynomial, we have standard form, which is in decreasing terms by exponent. So this is in standard form. So an example would be 4x to the fifth minus 2x to the third plus 5. So as long as we're decreasing, where this is x to the fifth, x to the third, and this is really x to the 0, we can leave it that way in standard form. Non-standard form would be like this, where we have 7a minus 6a squared plus 4 plus 2a to the fifth. Well, this isn't in order. This is not written in standard form. It should be written as our biggest 2a to the fifth, and then our next, which is a negative 6a squared, then 7a, and then plus the 4. Make sure you don't lose the negative that's with or the positive that's with when we're rearranging these terms. Most people don't lose a positive, but they might lose a negative. Now, this is in standard form. When we classify polynomials, we kind of classify them by like a first name and a last name, so by two different ways. A degree would look like x to the 0, which we know is really 1 because anything to the 0 is 1, which is why we say this is a constant. Having that x there doesn't change anything. It's not really a variable. It's constant. The degree is 1, so this is our highest power is 1. Then that would be a linear polynomial. If we have x squared, we call this quadratic. X to the third, we call it cubic. X to the fourth, we call a quartic. And x to the fifth, we call it quintic, like quints. Oop, forgot my eye there. And so this continues going, but for our purposes, will mainly consist of these 5: constant, linear, quadratic, cubic, quartic, and quintic. The other way that we can classify them is by the number of terms. And so if there is one term, so all of these would be just one term by themselves, this would be a monomial. And I always have trouble saying that. I don't know why. I want to say like mama. I don't know. It does not like roll off my tongue. I have to think about it. Monomial. So mono meaning one, or mo meaning one. I'm not sure. It's like mano a mano kind of thing, man to man. But it's that idea that this is just 1 versus 1. This is one term all by itself. 2 is a binomial, where bi for 2 nomial terms. 3 is trinomial. Tri for 3 and nomial for terms. And then anything above 4, we just say, yep, all of those are polynomials. So anything above that, we just name polynomial. Kind of got lazy in our classification there. So on our example, we have x squared plus 4x minus 6. Okay, so by degree, the highest degree we have is 2, so this would be quadratic. And number of terms, I have 1, 2, 3, making this a trinomial. So we would call this a quadratic trinomial. On number 2, the biggest power we have is 3, making this a cubic. And having only 1, 2 terms makes it a binomial. And on our last one, okay, this is not in standard form, so we should maybe rewrite that. 3x to the 5th, then we have our plus x, but then we can combine these two. So negative 1 plus 7, once we combine, now we're in standard form here. So by degree, we have a quintic, that is our highest. And once we've combined our like terms, this is actually a 1, 2, 3 trinomial. So if I just had a number here, So if I just had 3, 3 by itself would be a constant monomial. Because it's all by itself, which is mono, and then it's 3, which doesn't have anything, or it's 3x to the 0, which we know that's 1. So it doesn't change. It is 3, and it is always 3, no matter what x is. So I've had people in the past that this has thrown them off. What does a constant monomial look like? But these don't have to go together. I could have a constant, I could have a binomial that's linear, I could have a linear monomial where I could have something like this. So 3x, now this would be linear, but still a monomial. So kind of keep that in mind, that they're not linked horizontally. These are like two different things where you can have the same last name as somebody else, like a trinomial and a trinomial, with different first names, like the degree, quadratic or quintic. Our first operation that we're going to look at, and so in this unit we're going to do adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. Today we're going to look at adding and subtracting. So this is a review of combining like terms. So find the sum and then classify. So our first polynomial is 4x squared plus 6x plus 7 plus this polynomial, which is 2x squared minus 9x plus 1. When we're adding, we essentially ignore the parentheses here and combine like terms. So I have x squared, I have x, and I have a constant. I have x squared, I have x, and I have a constant. So I can combine 4x squared plus 2x squared, 6x minus 9x, and 7 plus 1 is 8. And if I wanted to classify this, this would be a quadratic, because the highest power is 2, trinomial, because there are 3 terms remaining. If I started on this one, there's 2 here, 1 here, and a constant, plus, so I drop the parentheses, 2 here, and a constant here. So 6x squared plus 2x squared is 8x squared. 3x can't be combined with anything, so I'll bring it down. And positive 7 minus 4 is positive 3. Okay, classify this. This is also quadratic because it's the highest power is 2. Having trouble spelling today, apparently. And again, 1, 2, 3 terms, trinomial. On the third one where we're adding, we have 1, 2 here, 1, 2, 3. So that's not in standard form to start with. And then we have 1, 1, 2, 3, and a constant here. So if I combine my 3, starting with the largest, I have 9 plus 7, so 16w cubed. And then I have 8w squared, which doesn't get combined with anything. I have 3w, which doesn't get combined with anything. And my negative 4 that comes down as well. To classify this one, now I have the highest power is a 3. So that means the highest is a cubic. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4 terms, making this a polynomial. So this would be classified as a cubic polynomial. When we switch gears and look at the difference to subtract them, we're going to combine like terms, but the first thing we're going to do is rewrite this so that I can change the sign and distribute this -1 to everything that follows the negative. So I can subtract the x cubed, and subtract a negative would be adding 8x squared. Subtracting a positive is subtracting 11. Then I'm ready to combine like terms when I have my signs fixed there for the subtraction. So I can look at 2x cubed and then minus x cubed to get 1x cubed. 5x squared plus 8x squared, and this is where 5 plus 8, I would get that 13. And then minus 3x and minus 11 comes down. So when I get this, sorry, I was looking at something on my notes. So now when I classify this, I get x cubed, so I get a cubic. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 terms, I get a polynomial. On number 2, okay, we have negative, so we're subtracting. I'm going to distribute that -1 to all the signs here. So I don't change the first one. I rewrite it exactly as it's written. And then I have minus 5x cubed minus 2x and plus 2. And then I look at combining my like terms. So I still go back to kind of the underlining to know what I can combine and what I can't. So 2x cubed minus 5x cubed, okay, is going to be -3x cubed. 4x squared doesn't get combined with anything, so I bring it down. My next one is -2x, can't combine with anything, so I bring it down. And then I have my -6 plus 2, that will be -4. Again, I have another cubic, 1, 2, 3, 4, polynomial. And on our last one here, okay, we have a minus here. So again, I always check the sign first to see if I need to distribute. So I rewrite the first one and then distribute that negative. Subtracting d cubed, subtracting 2d squared. Now I have 1 here, 3d's here, 2d's here, 3d's here, and 2d's here. So starting with 3, so I have 30 d cubed minus d cubed, and so that's where I get 29 d cubed. 29 d cubed minus 2 more d squareds here, minus 31 d squares, and then I have my minus 3d coming down. So now I have 3 is the highest, so that's still a cubic. But I don't have 4 terms, I have 1, 2, 3, making it a trinomial. Okay, if you have any questions on your homework or your practice, let me know, and I hope you have a good day.